All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at the LifterLMS xAPI add-on. Now, this add-on does a lot. What it does is it integrates LifterLMS with a TinCan or xAPI service, and it allows you to send data from your LifterLMS courses to your LRS or Learning Record Store. It allows you to use TinCan-enabled e-learning that you can upload to your WordPress site, and also track courses that you link to from your LifterLMS site. You can also work with the up-and-coming H5P rich interactive content tool with your courses. So it really does a lot, and we kind of wanted to go over the highlight reel with you today of what you can do with LifterLMS xAPI. So this is Chris Badgett from LifterLMS. I've got Dennis Hall here, creator of the LifterLMS xAPI add-on, and we're going to walk you through some of the top features. And I think we're going to start by just showing you how to use LifterLMS xAPI with your existing LifterLMS courses and integrate with something called competencies. But to really start, we're going to get into just activating LifterLMS xAPI add-on. So I'm just going to jump over to my plugins. I've installed it, and I'm going to activate it right here. So you'll see some information here about some H5P content and responsive lightbox stuff. We'll get into that in a little bit, but really the main area for LifterLMS xAPI from the back end is over here in the LifterLMS settings. So Dennis, how do we want to start showing people what LifterLMS xAPI can do?
Good question, Chris. What I'll do is I'll just walk through how just activating my plugin already gets you up and running right away. So when you installed LifterLMS xAPI, as you mentioned, there are actually some plugins that are subsidiary plugins that I provide to you to help make your learners' experience as well as your own experience in managing your LifterLMS platform for xAPI usage. So what I do is I provide you with the H5P xAPI plugin, and that's a plugin that's really hard to find. So it's really good to have, and it is a plugin that is actively still maintained by H5P. So whenever it updates, it's going to tell you you have an update. The beautiful part about it, though, is that beyond installing it, there's nothing else you need to do here. My plugin actually is automatically configuring it for you to work with the Learning Record Store that you choose to use with LifterX API. Now, we talk about Learning Record Store, and just be aware, this is an external service to your platform. And why do we prefer that you use an external service? This is because you can be collecting a lot of data in your database, and over time, this is going to really drive your system downhill. If you don't have that data sitting outside your server, eventually, over time, your server is going to either come to a crawl or possibly run out of disk space. Now, I know a lot of people have hosting accounts that are unlimited disk space and so on and so forth, but the thing is, they don't have the type of database that a Learning Record Store uses, which is a very high performance database, up to 8,000 times faster than a WordPress database. So what that means to you as an administrator and the users is that there is no delay in sending and receiving data. When you run reports, they're going to run extremely fast. You don't have to worry about waiting around for reports to generate using LifterLMS xAPI with the external LRS service. So moving on, we then have responsive lightbox. So H5P, the xAPI Connect, is going to allow your H5P content to talk with LifterLMS xAPI. Then we have the responsive lightbox. Now, this is only going to be used if you want to launch external e-learning courses using LifterLMS xAPI. So an example of an external e-learning course might be, as an example, the ever-popular Storyline product. If you want to package an TinCan produced Storyline product, you can then upload it into LifterLMS xAPI and use it locally in your own WordPress system. You can also, by the way, use a course sitting out on another server. So you may have just a server, a secondary server out on the internet, or a secondary web host that you use for file storage alone. You don't necessarily use it as a website. Well, you can run TinCan courses from that other service. And again, in doing so, you may save yourself a whole lot of upload problems here in WordPress, where you might be exceeding your maximum upload file size and so on and so forth. So these two plugins are packaged with LifterLMS xAPI, and when we turn these on, we're turning them on for the purpose of either launching external e-learning courses or linking to external e-learning courses, or that we're going to use the H5P Content plugin. And those are the only two reasons. If you're not going to do either of these, if you're just going to track LifterLMS courses, lessons, quizzes, or questions via xAPI, if you're only doing that, you don't need to even do these. You could just click the X and dismiss the notice, and this will not show up again. So right off the bat, that explains what those two plugins are for. Beyond this, before anything, you typically want to make sure that you're connected to a TinCan LRS service. What I do is when you install this product, I set you up with this information automatically, and this information ties you to my demo LRS. My demo LRS, basically, you then just log into that LRS using demo@demo.com with the password demo. And when you log in, you're going to see a whole lot of data that people have produced using the same demo system. The one thing you want to do is you want to understand, you can test your courses in that and such, but don't plan on using it permanently, because the problem is you're going to have your data mixed in with everyone else's. But it is a really good start. Once you do get your own LRS service, whether it be using our LRS service through learningtemplates.com or using a third-party LRS service, once you do that, you'll need to enter the information into LifterLMS, as will be given to you in an email. Once you've done that, then your LRS will be registered and you can go and log in. So without doing anything else, let's just go ahead and let's log in to the LifterLMS xAPI LRS. So I'm just going to enter demo@demo.com as the user, and the password is demo. Once we enter demo, then we will already have this information available to us. So you can see here, for example, right away, today is the 29th of December, and somebody has generated 42 records. We can actually scroll down and see who some of the people are that have generated records. We can see the most popular activities that have occurred within the platform, and we can access the latest reports on who may have completed a course. And this is done just from your dashboard alone, and this is automatically created for you. After that, we have some infrastructure that we've created for you as well. So when you update your courses to be xAPI compliant, we've gone a step further where we've added what is called CAS integration. CAS is basically competencies. It's a competency server type. So what I've done here is I've turned WordPress into a competency server for you. And what competencies will do for you will be to allow you to apply knowledge, skills, and ability to the content that you have already created or will be creating in the future. As part of the xAPI data that is sent, the competencies that you link to your LifterLMS courses, lessons, quizzes, or questions are actually sent to the LRS. So your LRS is tracking more than xAPI data. It is actually tracking what competencies have been gained as well. Beyond competencies, we then allow you to add those competencies into your courses, lessons, quiz, or questions. And we can take, for example, the business course as an example here. Once we've gone into the business course, what you will see right off the bat, you're going to see a couple of new features in LifterLMS. What you're going to see is an extra tab beyond the standard LifterLMS tabs. This tab is going to allow you post by post. So this course is a post in WordPress, and you can see that up here, that it's a post. So every single post in LifterLMS, it has the ability to turn on or turn off the recording of xAPI data. simply by clicking the on-off box, and you'll end up selecting a competency for the course. We'll get to that in a bit. You'll then end up just doing an action verb. So for example, upon completion of this course, Dennis Hall was able to or is able to. And then you'll pick a verb URL. Now these URLs, these are coming actually, they're not generated here, they're generated on the ADL official verb platform. Okay, so ADL being the Advanced Distributed Learning Consortium for the U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. government, etc. They have their own specific interactions that are xAPI compliant. And we're actually pulling that list from there for you. So whenever they update their system, then your system will update automatically as well. So I'll just turn this off for the moment and we'll continue on. But this is a new panel that you get, and you get the same panel in courses, lessons, and quizzes. Questions, you have the same panel, it's just presented differently. So if we go to questions, you're going to see the same panel below here, right here, but it's just presented differently. It's not presented as a tab. So that's the infrastructure that we give you. After that, you can go into the LifterLMS xAPI, and again, because we've logged in, now we can take a look at the demo activity that's been going on in the demo system. So here we have D Hall, which is myself, had performed a drag and drop stuff, which was actually an H5P embedded interactive video. And this was on another server, by the way. This wasn't here because it's a demo platform. And here's Dennis Hall, which is still my user, but again, from a different platform again, running some e-learning from that different platform. So there's a lot of things that you can see right off the bat, and we haven't even configured anything. All we've done is install the plugin and a login, and that's it. Beyond that, there are TinCan reports, and you can actually export the TinCan information as well, where I've got one that's already created. What you end up exporting here, by the way, is the report. So essentially, the idea with exports is create a report, and then when you want to export stuff, you will basically create an export package that will include that report as part of the export. Back to you, Chris.
Very cool. Well, let's take a look at what we could do with a LifterLMS course, with the business course. So
Sure.
where would we start in terms of getting a competency associated with that course?
Sure. So what I'll do, I'm going to get you to actually drive this, Chris. I'll direct you, but you go ahead and you do it. So you're going to select competencies from the bottom of the courses list, and you're going to add a new competency. Now here, because this is a business course, what you might want to do is maybe call this competency business course competency. You can call it anything you want. There are, by the way, some official government registries of competencies, such as in the US, there's ONET. This is a very important competency database. And I'll show you that stuff in a little bit. Now, the type of competency, since your mouse was over the competency panel, we're targeting this for the course itself. So we're going to put this as a course competency. What I'll do is I will copy and paste the information to me so that we don't waste everybody's time here.
So what we've done here is we've set up a competency that we're going to award somebody when they complete the course. This business course, you have achieved this competency, which includes skills that allow success in the world of business, organizational comprehension, financial understanding, management skills, technical competencies, personal characteristics, and recognition of diversity. And one of the great things about competencies and one of the needs they fulfill out there in the world is that these are verifiable. So by completing this course and having the system recognize and talk to the LRS, you are verifying, somebody is being verified that they have in fact achieved this level of competency by completing the course. So where do we go from here, Dennis?
Yeah, if I may just add, Chris, what you've just copied and pasted is just simply information I've taken from the internet to to just quickly create a competency for this training scenario. What you are looking at here, in fact, are actually a number of different competencies that comprise the learning objectives of this course. So for example, recognition of diversity, when this course would normally be created, we won't be doing this today, but if you were to create a real course, for a real business course, you would most likely have a learning objective that is directly related to recognition of diversity. And when we get to that lesson, then you'll see other sub-competencies or other skill sets related to recognition of diversity in that lesson. So it becomes kind of a drill down approach where we're identifying at a high level, what does this competency kind of mean at the course level, and what can a person expect to receive from taking this course. And in the end, this record will be a record of that student. So the student will actually be able to even take this away with them through the use of the LifterLMS xAPI export process. So just to make a long story short, there are a number of competencies actually in here, and what this course competency is it's a description of the overall competencies that you might see in this course, or that you should see in this course. And those competencies would all have learning objectives related to them. And then when the person went through those lessons and through those quizzes and through those questions, then what would happen is they would be able to validate these competencies that we're describing here. So the next thing we do, you've got a competency created, business course competency. It is assigned to the course competency type, which you're not limited to, by the way. You could assign this to multiple competency types if you wish. For purpose of this instruction, we're assigning it just to course. And then Chris, you've just clicked on the save, and now we go to the course itself. So what Chris is going to do now is, in this course, we're going to set this course up so that we can manage this course experience. We're turning on the recording of xAPI data. We're selecting the business course competency we just created, and we're going to create an action verb. And believe it or not, in xAPI, what's really cool is you can create your own action verbs so that when you do look at even xAPI raw data, you can see, for example, it might say Chris Badgett completed business course competency, or the name of this course, excuse me, which is, I think, business course, if I recall.
Correct.
Yeah. So it might say Chris Badgett in the end, and we're talking about the most technical report here. It's actually going to say Chris Badgett fulfilled business course. So if you want to make it even more readable, you could say fulfilled or completed the business course. Yeah, fulfilled or completed the business course. And it'll actually, your technical report will actually read as a complete sentence. So it's very interesting. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to select from the ADL server the URL that we're going to use, otherwise known, by the way, as verb ID, or otherwise known as the activity ID. And in this case, it's a course. So we'll just put course, and that's fine. Now, when Chris saves this course, he could actually go to that course page, and it will report already. So now Chris has just, you've just visited that course page, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go in the back end again, and let's take a look at the activity that just occurred through the LifterLMS xAPI. And we're going to go to View TinCan Statements. And View TinCan Statements is the most technical part of the product. And yet, if you take a look at the top two lines, it says exactly what Chris wrote. So this is as technical as you need to make it. Chris, is that easy to read as to what you did or accomplished?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, so you fulfilled or completed the business course. Very straightforward. You can turn this into very straightforward language choices of your selection. And this also, by the way, if this was a French system, that might say Chris Badgett complété l'école, and then you could say business course.
Gotcha. So it's translatable too.
Well, it's translatable by the administrator. So it becomes completely any language you want simply by what you have entered into the xAPI record. So that takes care of the course. Let's take a look at the lesson now. Okay, so here we have lesson 1, and again, what the objective here will be to record xAPI data. But because we want to record this and we want to assign a competency to it, so we need to go back over to the left menu, Chris, and we need to click on competencies. And now we need to create a lesson competency. So we're going to add a new competency, and you could put diversity if you wish.
So this is a lesson competency, and I'm going to publish that. And I can go back to my lesson, which I do need to update because we just added a new thing for it to find. So I'm going to manage this lesson experience. I'm going to assign the diversity competency, and I'll do my fulfilled or completed.
If I may interject, Chris, just so you know, these are action verbs. So there could be a number of different things. Like I know you've been writing fulfilled or completed, and fulfilled is kind of an action verb. But you could put things that are actually measurable as well as your verb. So Chris, so in the end, what you might be looking for might be Chris Badgett. Chris Badgett read about diversity as an example here. And when it comes time for the quiz or the test, what would happen is you would put something very measurable as a result. So Chris Badgett, the end goal here would be something like Chris Badgett was able to recall 5 characteristics of diversity. Something measurable. But for here, it's fine. Read about, that's good. Now here, if you do scroll down, there is a lesson here. So we can go ahead and we can save that. But when you want to think about creating your product with LifterLMS xAPI, always think about from an instructional design point of view. Think about it from an instructional design point of view. If I was creating a course as a proper instructional design course, what would I do? Do I want to tie learning objectives in? And now you're free to do all of this, and you will be measuring them. So now by visiting this, if you go back to the reporting, you will see, and you can just refresh. And what you're going to see, Chris Badgett read about lesson 1, diversity.
That's fantastic.
And you may also notice that 14 seconds ago you had visited the business course again. And this was because you went back to the front of the website, and you'll notice here, beyond what many other plugins do, they globally start recording everything the user does, where here, we're selectively recording only what you chose to record. We're not globally recording that Chris Badgett visited the home page, for example.
Gotcha.
We're only recording the things you choose to record. Now, what's important to understand about that is that the data that you choose to record is the stuff that you're really interested in. You don't want to see all kinds of junk in there of stuff you didn't really care about or can't make use of.
Right, so you can really focus your reporting to exactly what you want to see and not just be too much. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and through the and because the front end of the course isn't modified in any way, there's absolutely no difference from a user using this course as an xAPI course or as a standard Lifter course. There's no difference to the user. So because of that, what's wonderful is if you need to, you can change, adjust, tweak things in the back end without any interruption to the user whatsoever.
Fantastic. Okay, that's how to work with LifterLMS xAPI with Lifter LMS content itself, but what if we want to upload some content that we used an authoring tool to create?
Let's go ahead. Now, in this particular case, I think we may have to actually go to, I think I may have to go to the site as my user.
Sure. All right. So now what we're going to do, one of the great things about LifterLMS xAPI is that if you create e-learning or are an instructional designer, create using authoring tools like Storyline, Articulate, or Lectora, and many more, you can upload that e-learning content or course to LifterLMS lessons, courses, quizzes, things like that. So in this case, we're going to upload a Storyline course to lesson 3. So let's do that. So we're going on over to the LifterLMS xAPI panel, and we're adding a new TinCan record, and we're going to upload a course that we've created with Storyline. And this is just a sample course that you'll see in a second about restaurant skills. We'll just call that restaurant skills. And we're uploading it. So this is something that we're hosting, and we're also not running into the limits of the WordPress media library here. So you can upload large files, and we've got it set up to record the course activity ID. So let's create that course.
So Chris, before we go further, can I explain a couple of things here?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So you'll notice that I had selected a zip file for upload, and that zip file is actually clickable to be able to re-upload if we want or whatever, which I will do. You'll notice though, before I do this, I had selected the zip file, I had then removed it. And when I removed it, the course URL and the activity ID cleaned up. One of the really important things to understand about LifterLMS xAPI is that what you just saw was actually an automatic file cleanup process that we're doing. So when you select the file and you begin to commit it, it's not yet committed. When you begin to commit it, what we do is we establish already the path that the file is going to be located at. We read the TinCan XML file in this product, and we establish your start file for you already. We're actually reading the XML file, the technical garbage that you have to normally deal with. We're taking care of it for you. You don't care about the technical side of this. We're then further reading that file to read the activity ID, which is that ADL activity ID that we described earlier. Now, why we're doing this is because we also are offering you the ability to rewrite this information to create a competency for this course, something you can't do in that authoring tool right now. We're giving you the opportunity to create a competency for this course. So Chris, do you mind if I go and make a quick TinCan competency?
Sure.
All right, so I'm just going to open competencies in a new tab. And I'm going to create I'll just call it TinCan competency or something like that. Or my e-learning competency. Okay, so we have an e-learning competency here, and it's going to say this person can open a e-learning course. Fairly straightforward competency. All right, and we're going to associate it to TinCan. Now, by doing this, this automatically will allow me to use it for e-learning. Now, before I publish, do you see there is a permalink here? Now, today we're doing it this way, but in the future, it'll be in a drop-down menu. But for now, we'll keep it as TinCan, and we'll simply right-click here, and we will copy the link address. Now we're going to go back to e-learning, and we're going to paste that. Just so before we copy that link address, we're going to publish this course. and then we'll copy the link address. And we can do that simply by clicking on the permalink for this, going up into our browser and copying this. So we'll right click and copy it. We can close that. We can go back to the course itself and we can paste that competency. So now when we create this course, a number of things happen. It commits this zip file and it unpacks it into your WordPress uploads folder in a special courses folder that we've created. That courses folder is where all of your xAPI courses will reside in the end. And in the future, if we choose to delete this course, what's going to happen is we will delete all the files of this course from your upload courses folder. By doing this, you don't have to worry about your disk space being plugged up with courses that are unused anymore. And we're the only ones doing that cleanup. There is no other product out there right now that automatically cleans up your courses. Even on many actual larger, more expensive LMSs, they don't have that. So just before we go further, what I'd like to also make mention, earlier we were talking about the alternate plugins that we're also supplying. If I want this course to load in a lightbox window, a lightbox is like those photo slideshows that you see on cell phones and stuff. If I want it to load in a lightbox, then I will activate that plugin for that. If I don't want it, then what's going to happen is when this course gets launched, it'll open up in a new tab is what will happen by default. So we'll let it do that first, and then we'll turn on the plugins and you'll see how that goes. So now that we've got this TinCan course created, Chris, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have you add this course into lesson 3, I believe it was.
Okay, here I am on lesson 3. We don't have any content here yet, so I'm going to edit this lesson.
Now, while Chris is doing this, by the way, what I'd like to also make mention of is because we're putting a xAPI enabled course in this lesson, Chris could manage the xAPI experience in the lesson itself, but because this lesson is really only comprised of uploaded e-learning, what we're going to do is we're simply going to just only track the e-learning of the lesson and not the lesson itself. And again, this is your choice. You can turn on the lesson tracking as well as the e-learning tracking, or have untracked e-learning, or have only the e-learning being tracked. And there it's done. So now if Chris were to view this lesson and launch that course, the course will open in a new tab by default. And there we are. The course this is a storyline course opening in a new tab. So if you just close this course, Chris, and go back to the View TinCan statements, you'll end up seeing that you just launched an e-learning course. Starting note, you opened server checklist, which is the 6th record down. You then opened starting notes. You then opened your conduct, and then you opened starting notes again, because that was the home page for it. Then you opened punctuality, and then starting notes again, the home page for the course. Now, one thing to make mention of, you're looking at a short code that was generated when Chris had created the button, the xAPI button. The short code, as you've seen in the front end, it's not displayed like you see it here in the back end. But here in the back end, you're not going to see an actual button. You're only going to see that short code.
So how do we make it lightbox?
Well, good question. So how do we make it lightbox? We go back to the back end again, and right at the top, what you can do is you can begin installing plugins. And if you wish to install all the plugins, simply select the checkbox beside plugin and select bulk actions, install, apply. This will install both plugins. Else, you could have just selected responsive lightbox and installed it. Now what needs to happen, you need to go back to return to the required plugins installer. And this will take you back to the 2 plugins, allow you to multi-select again, select bulk actions, and activate them both and apply. And you're done. So now you have both plugins installed and activated. So now if you go right at this lesson, if you just refreshed the page maybe or went back to the lesson, there's nothing you need to do. So now launch course now, and it's going to launch in a lightbox.
Awesome.
A definite advantage. Earlier we launched this course in a separate tab. When we launched it in a separate tab, that took the student's view out of the lesson itself. So the course was being presented in a manner that disrupted the student's learning path. Does that make sense?
It does. So
yeah.
this keeps us now like right inside the lesson.
That's right. Now you're running the course, and if you just click your mouse outside this window, it'll close the course, and you're still in lesson 3. So the student is still focused on the learning path that they left with.
Well, that's awesome. Well, one of the other things you talk about, Dennis, with LifterLMS xAPI is that you can actually do a similar thing just like this, but even in such a way that you're not hosting the course. It's
exactly right.
Somewhere else on the internet. Could we maybe add something like that to lesson 4?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and just edit lesson 4. Well, yeah, I guess we'll edit lesson 4. All right. Because we're going to go there and edit it anyhow to make a button, right?
Right.
So before we go further, let's go back to the left-hand tab. The install required plugins tab up top. Let's go back to there, and let's just go to the LifterLMS xAPI, and we're going to add a new TinCan record again. Now I'll take over, and I'll paste a URL or actually I'll just type it out. In this case, the course name is, I don't even, to be honest, I don't even know what this course is anymore. I'll just call it CL because that's the name of the folder it's in. Oh, it's a checklist. Forget it. That's the same one we're doing now, or we just did. I'm going to do a course called Test. There you go. My test course. Now this is just a single page little thing where you click a few buttons. Of course, you have to spell the word right first. Now, rather than choose a file and upload, what I'm going to do, I'm going to type in http:// and actually I'll see if there are some other courses here that I could do. And by the way, you'll notice WP content, uploads, courses, etc., here. Do you see this?
Yeah.
This is another WordPress website. Okay. So let's go ahead and play with that. Why don't we take a course from one of my other WordPress websites?
And while you're setting that up, I just want to mention that that's one of the beauties of LRS, where you can actually be reporting to your LRS from multiple LMSs.
You are exactly right. It is one of the most powerful things. So now you can share courses amongst your buddies if you wish. It's just a beautiful thing. It really is. I'm going to create I'm just going to use this e-learning competency. That's all I'm going to do. So I'll view this and I'll grab that competency again. So not only am I using a course from a different server, I'm mapping it to a local competency. So my competency might mean something different than your competency might on your platform. Let's go ahead and let's just create the course, and we're done. So we didn't upload, we mapped to a different course. So Chris, can I get you to add my test course to lesson 4?
Sure.
The tab is open up top for you.
So I'm doing that. I'm just going to go ahead and update it just to make sure it's got the most recent everything.
Yeah. I do also want to make mention of something. Earlier, we had only tracked the e-learning in the lesson and not the lesson itself. Maybe here you might want to track the lesson and the e-learning. Yeah, go ahead and, no, sure, do an image. Why not? Do anything you want.
Okay, we'll do this bullseye image.
There you go, bullseye.
Which is actually a little badge.
Now watch what happens when you start playing around with the resizing of this. It's very interesting. If you make the width of this, the padding left and right, if you make the padding left and right different, you're going to see that the text itself can move over to the left or right.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat. You can turn it into like a little, what we typically call to action look or something.
Mm-hmm.
Wish. There you go. That's a very professional looking button, honestly. And you could have changed the course, the button text as well. So
which I can actually do right here.
Which you actually can also do here. That's what I did want to show. You can actually make if you know a little bit of CSS, you can actually change stuff here. But if you don't want to do any of this and you've realized you've made a mistake in the button, then what you do want to do is you want to delete this and recreate it using the button itself, the xAPI button. Now, another interesting thing, in your case, you're typing, click the button below, but that button can become inline in your text as well.
Like I could put it inside the sentence if I wanted?
No, here, just let me have control. You could actually just do this. There you go. So actually, sorry, let me continue on here. So click this button, let's say. Click this button to launch the course. So that's another interest. You can take control now. So in this case, Chris, let's also monitor this lesson. We'll give it the same competency as the previous lesson because we didn't make a separate competency for this lesson. So we'll just give it the same competency. And then you'll want to put in your free-form text for the verb. You could put jumped up and down on. Just for fun. There you go, jumped up and down. Chris, it'll read Chris jumped up and down on whatever the name of this lesson is, on lesson 4, I think it's called. And there you go. When we visit this lesson, what you're going to end up seeing as an output record in the most technical, this course wasn't working. That's what was wrong. We'll just click outside. This course itself, would you like me to go in and make a change?
Sure, just drop in a different course or whatever.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll do because this course wasn't it was one that was on one of my servers. So I will do a different, now this actually gives us a very good opportunity to show what else you can do here. So what we can do also, since that course wasn't the working course, let's go ahead and let's just do a slightly different course. We're going to do the same server. We won't do WP Content. Actually, no, we'll be doing a different server. I think it's actually dev. Okay, dev.templates.com. Okay. And I'm going to do slash. In this case, it's a storyline course again. And that should work fine right there. So let me just do a quick test for something. By the way, as a little side note, you're about to see me launch this course and you're going to see some failures occur. The course will launch, but it's going to say configuration data is missing or incorrect. And the reason for that is because when you launch a TinCan course just on its own, it's not going to work. It must be launched from a TinCan related process, which in this case is this. Okay, so now if I update this, now another interesting thing just to let you know as well, we didn't add a new course. We still kept the course. We could change the name of it. We changed the whole course in this case. We don't have to go and update the lesson. The lesson itself is still going to be fine. So you don't have to do anything. You can actually on the fly change the course that's in the lesson. So people, in fact, won't even realize that that was done.
I think we were on lesson
that
4.
one. Yeah, you're right. Wrong lesson. Lesson 4?
Yep.
And there we are. Now you'll see it's a different course starting. Okay, this one's a blank course. I think you get the idea. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the TinCan records that resulted. I'm just picking bad courses today. So what I'd like you to notice is that we went into the business course in lesson 4, and in fact, no, that course didn't work. Let me update something then. And this is the kind of thing, you can actually do this through a fairly standard trial and error process. It's not the end of the world to do it. What I will do in this case, I'm actually going to, just bear with me. That was the WT, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just view, oh, sorry. I'm just going to get the ADL verb path that's associated with this, because it's a remote course. And it's what I should have actually done to begin with, but no problem. I do see the issue actually. I'm going to show you guys something technical. The problem with this course was not anything we did. The problem with this course was that it was incorrectly published. There's no such thing as http:// So that's the problem. So that's a course that won't work because it was completely incorrectly published. So I will do a different one, a different path. There, that's another course in that server. And again, I don't have to go back and update the lesson. I've changed the course. Let's just go back and view that. Well, actually, even let's stay in LifterLMS xAPI, and let's just go and refresh the screen for the lesson. Okay, should be a different result again here. And now you can see. So what I did was I found a course that worked. The other course didn't work. It was incorrectly published. So now we can just click on these. That's all good. Close the course. We'll go back and we'll see what we've accomplished in the technical jargon. You can see a really different thing has happened. We've gone into the business course. We went to lesson 4 twice. I refreshed the screen. We then launched the storyline course, which this was the name of that course, landed on its homepage and went back to its homepage. And that was it. So that's a linked course, and that linked course is linked to our own competency. So I just want to show you something really special here. If I turn around and click on lesson 4, and this is the technical, okay? Oops, that page not found. In this case, it wasn't found, actually. We didn't apply a proper competency to lesson 4, maybe? I hadn't noticed. I don't think we did, actually. But here's the uploaded storyline package, and it's saying nothing found again. Did we save that? Because that should have been found. We can look at the technical details behind it all, and this is what should have been showing up. So let's just copy this, and let's see if we can view this. And if it says nothing found, nothing found. We've got the permalink was maybe wrong, Chris?
Perhaps.
Yeah, because this is what's happening. This is the technical junk that's behind this single little statement. Okay, there's all kinds of stuff here. The latitude and longitude, the time that the information was collected, all kinds of stuff is here. And including the ADL verb, as well as our competency, who took the course, full name as well, all kinds of stuff. So anyhow, either way, typically what you're going to see, if we maybe pick server checklist, let's see if we can get, no, we're getting not found on all that stuff. What typically will happen is you're going to actually see the competency there. I'll let you take over now, Chris. From my perspective, other than viewing a report and exporting TinCan record or information, there's not much else to say.
How about working with H5P content?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, H5P. So we had to go to the H5P Content website, and we had to go and get these libraries. Once we got the libraries, we uploaded them to WordPress. And the one thing you want to be careful of, some servers don't accept these file types. Some versions of PHP don't accept them. So these are .h5p file types. So you need to be really careful that your server is even going to accept those before anything. And if your PHP version of your WordPress server doesn't accept these, the problem is you're not going to be able to use H5P content. You will have to have your host update your PHP version on your server. Either way, let's assume that your server does. So what's wonderful is once you've installed their full library package, which is called the official H5P release. So once you've installed all of their libraries, you have a whole ton of interactions here. This is a very long list of H5P interactions and games and such that you can make use of. We're going to do a simple drag and drop one. So let's go ahead and let's start this. I do actually already have one H5P content drag and drop created. So I'll just deconstruct it to show you how I created it. So the first thing I did was I added a video. So if I edit this, editing it is no different than creating a new one. I gave it a title. I then added a video, and I did that by clicking the plus, and I selected a file to upload onto my server, and I uploaded that, and then it showed up here, and it said it was an MP4 file. I could then edit the copyright information about that file if I wanted. I can then put a poster image. Understand, poster images are important for videos, especially if your target audience is primarily a mobile audience. It's really important to have a poster image because mobile devices will not autoplay videos. They have to be tapped to be started. And if I wanted this to be a primarily mobile course or whatever, I would put a poster image where I would just open this, I would select an image related to that video. After that, I simply gave the video a title. I gave it some start screen options. I could hide the title on the start of the video. I could give it a short description. I could put copyright information, and so on and so forth. I have all these different variations of solution-related things, and I can localize the interaction so that all the buttons are in my chosen language as well. Beyond all of this, once I've created my course, and I've created the interactions, which I've done through add interactions, I would then basically scrub the video to the location of the interaction, and it should be there. I can then click on that interaction and edit or create a new one. And at this point, it comes up with a little window inside where I've set up my interaction type. In this case, it was a drag and drop interaction. Okay, and while the drag and drop was occurring, I paused the video. After that, after I create the drag and drop interaction itself, I would then have to choose what things I want done in the interaction. So that's done in the task. And it's just a matter of clicking these buttons to add drop zones. You can add advanced text, or you can add image objects that you would drag and drop onto the drop zones. By selecting the image options, you could then edit them, and you could basically identify what you want and where the target drop zone is for that interaction. Once you're done, you would click done, and then you would go and do your next object and so on and so forth. These drop zones also have the ability to be edited where I can show a label or not. So if I turn that off, what you're going to see is no label here, but if you look down here, drop zone 2 is there. I prefer to keep them on just for demonstration purposes. So you see drop zone 1. And the user sees this, by the way. This isn't just for editing purposes. After that, you've got the various things that you can also do. Opacity, background opacity of your draggable and droppable or draggable images and drop zones. You've got enabling retry, giving points for the whole task, and so on and so forth. Again, I'll let you go through the details of these, but once you've done that, then you click Done. And at the end, I also have, by the way, a summary of this task. So at the end, I have a question that I ask. So in fact, I'm doing drag and drop, and then I'm asking you a question. So I have 2 interactions in this video. After I've done it all, I can enable the download button. I can embed, I can use the embed, allow the embed button, and even show a copyright button. These are not 2 that I typically would use in a learning management system, simply for the fact that you probably want to track the distribution of your product, and you probably don't want people sharing your course for free maybe. After that, let's go ahead and let's just update this, and then we'll go to a lesson. In this case, I'm on my server and I've got another lesson set up for it. Yeah, here I have 5 e-learning courses in the lesson. I have in the quiz, simply stating it's a 1-question quiz. So that means that I have the H5P in my lesson, in my question, not my lesson. And there it is there. What H5P wanted us to do was, after we saved it, we had to copy that and paste it, or we could have done add H5P, and we could have searched for it and inserted it, which did the same thing as that. Once we update, we can then go to this question. And by the way, again, the questions have the ability to record xAPI data or not. Now, LearnDash has its own questions built in too. So here I have a LearnDash question mixed in with an e-learning, mixed in with, again, an H5P. So the user would typically go through the e-learning course. They may or may not have a quiz in that course. Maybe that is just giving them some background information. Maybe it's just a video or something in a course, or an interactive video made in Storyline or something. After that, so it may or may not contain measurable results. As an xAPI course, it can do both. After that, they have the H5P interaction. So we're going to have a number of things tracked here. What I'm not tracking is whether the answer given was correct or not correct. If I want to track it, I could by applying a competency to this. So let's go ahead and make a quick competency for this. I'll just open this in a new tab, and we'll make a question competency in this case.
So the name of the game with H5P is interactivity. You can really see all kinds of interesting things you could build as part of your instructional design.
That's correct, yeah. Yes, well, you saw that really long list of interactions, right? That's a huge long list. I mean, these guys are far better than us at doing that. They are certainly experts in what they do. I have a great appreciation for H5P. They've really brought creativity back into the learning management systems. Okay, so I've created this, and I'm going to make that a question type competency. And now I'm going to go back to that question, and I've basically got the question. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the xAPI data. I'm going to select, I'll just do a refresh of the screen here. 1 second. All right, so I'm going to record the xAPI data. My question competency is the only one there, so it's already selected. So here I'm going to put just answered. Here, actually, I'll do this. Diligently answered. Diligently answered. I think I've spelled diligently right. And in this case, it's going to be probably a question, I would expect, right? Mm-hmm. So now what I've done, I've set us up so we're tracking the e-learning, we're tracking the H5P content, and we're tracking what was answered for the LifterLMS question. So we have a number of different outputs just from this one slide. It's like Grand Central Station of tracking, this one. So let's view this and see what we get for results in the end. So right off the bat, what I'll do is I'll just go back to here. I'll open up our LifterLMS xAPI. We'll view the statements. We've just landed on the question page. That's where we are now. So, and it told us, Dennis Hall diligently answered question 1, right? Now, you may have noticed I've done an image button for the storyline course being launched, and I'll just leave this the way it is. Well, if I select yes or no, it's going to jump to where I last left off. So here's I last left off at the very beginning. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do this. Yada yada yada. Let it go through it all. We'll do a couple of things here. We'll play it a bit.
Upon arrival, you have to set up your section. Be on time. Use clean press tablecloth.
Yada, yada, yada. So in this case, I do have a number of things that I'm doing. And then I've got some review slides. And once I've completed these slides, then I can...
When you first read your table, there are a few things you want to remember. You want to introduce yourself.
And these can't advance, so we'll just kill it. We'll just kill it right there. So now I've done that. So let's take a look at what we got. Believe me, we've got a lot of results from that e-learning course. So way down here is where we were, somewhere around question 1 right there. And we ended up getting all of these after from the e-learning course. So now let's do the H5P thing. I'll just advance it a bit here.
And then tell them that you'll be right back with them. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you today?
Now, in the setup we did, this was the drag and drop interaction, and I told H5P I'm pausing the video while this interaction is being done. So I'll just drop there, and I'll drop there, and see if I got it right or wrong. 0, that's fine.
Good. Fine, thank you.
Now I'm just continuing on.
I'll be your server.
I'll just jump ahead again. And now I'm getting to the second.
Okay. I'll give you a minute to look that over, and I'll go get.
Now I'm just getting to the second interaction, which is right here. And I'll do correct and continue. Okay, so now that we've finished the H5P interaction, let's see what happened. So the H5P interaction gave us, from here, it gave us drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop. So it gave us a lot of different outputs again. And then it said we completed the interactive video quiz. Now let's take a look at the next item, which is the lifter output. And I should be just refreshing, I think, to get that, because the H5P may have covered it. I think the H5P covered the lifter question.
It's all right. I think that's good because we cover that in a different part of the demo, just the lifter question. So
yeah, but so just so you know, we've now actually got xAPI output from quiz questions and from interactions within H5P and from external e-learning that is being used in a LifterLMS question type. I'll let you take over, Chris.
Well, that's LifterLMS xAPI. Final look at H5P. Throughout this series, we looked at how to send LifterLMS data through the TinCan to your learning record store through the xAPI and how that interacts with the Lifter components. We looked at how to work with uploaded e-learning content that you may have created with authoring tools. And we've even showed you how to load in a lightbox on top of your site, e-learning content hosted elsewhere on the web, and also pipe data coming from that through your TinCan manager with LifterLMS xAPI. And we've showed you how to use H5P interactive content inside your LifterLMS site. So LifterLMS xAPI, if you have any questions, come find us, go to lifterlms.com/contact, and we can answer away. But this is a really powerful add-on and extension for LifterLMS. So that is what LifterLMS xAPI is all about. And thank you, Dennis, for creating such a wonderful product and helping show us the power of what it can do for the listener.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for allowing me to develop for your product. I mean, it's important to pick the right product to develop for, and I know I've done that here with LifterLMS. So thanks to the CodeBox team. You guys have done an awesome job with your product.
Thanks, Dennis.